From another time comes a man of great power.
You talk funny, Nash. Where are you from?
Lots of different places.
A warrior of incredible strength.
You've the devil in you.
We've been kinsmen 20 years.
Connor MacLeod was my kinsman. I don't know who you are.
Because you were born different, men will fear you, try to drive you away.
A man uncertain of his future.
What you got here, Brenda, is a guy who's been creeping around since at least 1700.
It's not possible.
And haunted by his past.
Wait a minute, Nash. I want some answers.
You cannot die, MacLeod.
I am Conor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod. I was born in 1518 in the village of Glenfinnan on the shores of Loch Shiel. Now I am immortal.
A hero who is about to face his greatest challenge.
You will always be weaker than I.
What can you tell me about a 7-foot lunatic hacking away with a broadsword at 1 o'clock in the morning, New York City, 1985?
Not much.
For he is not alone.
In the end, there can be only one.
Highlander, there can be only one.
And here we are, we're the princes of the universe. Here we belong, fighting for survival. We've come to be the rulers of your
The Highlander saga began in the spring of 1982.
I wrote it as a project at UCLA when I was a student there. I had gone to Scotland, and then I went down to the Tower of London in London, and if you've ever been there, they have in the basement the world's largest collection of armory. And I can remember walking through that, and I was probably 20 at the time, thinking, wow, you know, what if you owned this? I took that a step further and thought, well, what if you had actually worn all this? Then I went one step further and thought, what if you'd never died, and this is all the things you wore over the centuries?
What made the Highlander concept so unique was its ability to combine the romantic with the fantastic, creating a legend of immortality with total believability.
I always thought that one of the cool things about the movie was that all this goes on, but it could be happening to the person living next door to you.
Put down your weapon. Put your hands on your head.
Another time, Highlander. I will find you.
Stop! Who in the name of God was that? I called you Highlander. What did he mean? There can only be one. Only one what?
The script just grabbed me right from the start because of that high adventure, that mystery, the romance. I've always been sort of fascinated in reincarnation, in the other side. I'd grown up loving fantasy.
Convinced that the look of the movie would be as unique as the concept, the filmmakers turned their attention to casting the all-important role of the Highlander, Conor MacLeod.
And I came across this person, and it was a picture of Christopher Greystoke. And I said, this is the man. He's got eyes that seem to look into the past.
He had a quality that was sort of timeless. You believe has been around for 400 years and had the adventures, the romance, the pain, and the experience of somebody who's lived that extraordinary life.
Well, after Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, I was looking for another epic fantasy with a character unlike anything audiences had seen before. And I was fascinated with the idea of playing an immortal.
In Highlander, Lambert's Connor MacLeod learns of his fate from another immortal.
Greetings. I am Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez, Chief Metallurgist to King Charles V of Spain, and I'm at your service.
What do you want?
You.
The power of Highlander worked its magic on Sean Connery.
The sensation you're feeling is the quickening.
The idea being to combine the kind of eloquence of the Egyptian and the Spanish with the sword fighting and the old codes, almost kind of Japanese sword, a bit of everything really. With some fun too.
The fun Sean Connery experienced in making Highlander included his encounter with the Kurgan, played by Clancy Brown.
The Kurgan, he is the strongest of all the immortals. He is the perfect warrior. If he wins the prize, mortal man would suffer an eternity of darkness.
How do you fight such a savage?
With heart, faith, steel. In the end, there can be only one.
The Kurgan is a great villain. I think Clancy did just a fantastic job.
Clancy walks into a room and he fills that room. And there's a tremendous physical strength. If you found this strength turned against you, it would be very unpleasant.
Clancy was so into the role, so completely the Kurgan, that he would grab me off the set and say, "Hey man, you're dead."
What do you want?
Your head. And the prize.
There can be only one.
Death does not come easily to an immortal, and the first Highlander introduced a concept that would live on in all the Highlander movies, the transfer of power called the quickening.
You read in the script, MacLeod receives the quickening, and it's like, okay. And then the fun part is to work out how to visualize that, you know.
All the elements were now in place. An immortal hero, his teacher, and a villain battling across the ages for a prize.
It touched us all, not only Russell, but Christopher, Bill, myself. It was a magical time.
I very purposely tried to write a movie where you have the feeling of traveling in time, but you never travel in time. And we start in the present, we jump to the past, we come back to the present. But the characters aren't jumping time, they're living linear lives.
You cannot die, MacLeod. Accept it. That is a perfect way to start.
I think people hunger for a mythology that they can believe in.
You must learn to conceal your special gift and harness your power until the time of the gathering.
What gathering?
When only a few of us are left, we will feel an irresistible pull towards a faraway land to fight for the prize.
I mean, I think it's it is my favorite film. The first movie is my favorite film of all time. Even people I know who would never watch a science fiction or fantasy movie, they are interested in Highlander.
It became this phenomenal success in Europe. Huge movie. I think at the time it came out, I was told it was the biggest movie in the history of France, you know, so it was like me and Jerry Lewis were geniuses in France.
In Europe, the film was an immediate success. Audiences lined up to see an expanded version, with this scene never shown in America.
be afraid. What's your name?
Rachel.
What happened?
Everybody's dead.
Shh. I'm like you, I'm alone. Come with me, Rachel.
Move. Nein! Erst musst du mich erschießen.
Whatever you say, Jack. You're the master race.
And it was unfortunate that the World War II sequence got cut because it basically explains a whole character. The blonde secretary, who you wonder, in the American version, I think, you wonder why he's so close to her. In the European and Japanese version, where that scene is in place, you realize that he saved her when she was a 12-year-old girl in World War II, and basically she's like a daughter to him.